Anyone familiar with my album Crazy with a capital F knows that I'm afraid of clowns, and knows why. I used to have a replica of the creepy clown doll from the original Poltergeist movie as a kid in my room, just like the kid from the movie. And also as a kid, I was creeped out by dolls in general. Like, not all dolls. Like, Barbie never bothered me. I actually found her curves quite pleasant as a kid, to be totally honest. But my great-grandma Stell, had a collection of these old porcelain dolls. Like the kind whose eyes would blink if you moved them around. Right? Like the kind from like a variety, a plethora of horror movies. Those all too realistic-looking glass eyes. Cold fucking eyes. They always seem to be watching me. Even thinking about it now just gives me the chills, you know? It's like I wouldn't want to sleep in a guest room full of those little shits any more now than I did when I was a kid. Certain dolls are just creepy. And one of the creepiest of those dolls happens to be named Robert. Robert talks. Robert trashes your house. Robert may be cursed. He might have even killed a kid's aunt. And he's definitely about the creepiest looking goddamn doll you will ever lay your eyes on. Let's finish 2016 with some fear on today's cursed episode of Timesuck.
You're listening to Timesuck.
Okay, everybody, here it is. Here it is. Your bonus episode. Timesuck has now reached 100 reviews and counting on iTunes. And just like I promised, every time we hit 100 new reviews, you get a bonus podcast that week. 2 that week instead of 1. 1 on Monday, 1 on Friday. Obviously, this is the Friday one. And I just wanted to thank you for that. That was a very nice little holiday gift from you to me. I love getting those reviews. Love knowing that more and more people are listening. And I've been listening to your feedback on iTunes, Twitter, messages people have been sending me via timesuckpodcast.com. And one of the biggest critiques I've gotten is that I should make the shows a little bit longer, and I'm listening. And I can't guarantee that every show is going to be, you know, more than 30 minutes going forward. But what I can say is that I'm going to change the way I've been doing it. I've been watching the clock so far. I had this goal of trying to keep it down to 30 minutes, and I still don't want it to be one of those long, tedious podcasts that it ends up being like 3 hours. You know, like a Dan Carlin's Hardcore History, which I do love some of those, but God, I don't have the fucking attention span to listen to anything for that long. Maybe most people do. Maybe most of you have a much better attention span than I do, but I still would like to keep it somewhat tight. But I'm not going to be anal about it anymore. I'm not going to watch the clock. I'm just going to tell the tale as I've prepared it, and it's going to take however long it fucking takes to get through it. You know, because for these, I do a lot of research. I jot down my notes. I kind of put a little rough outline together, and then I walk through it after I hit record. And and obviously sometimes I just digress as my brain kind of pings around in the middle. And you know what? It's supposed to be fun. This is all just fun. So criticism heard. I'm taking the training wheels off. I don't need the 30-minute security blanket anymore. It's just going to be what it's going to be. And this week, it's going to be about Robert the Doll. And I want to thank Timesucker Ben Montgomery for giving me today's topic. He emailed me at admin@timesuckpodcast.com. He found the website and sent me a note, and I love that. I love the collaborative exercise into the strange we're developing here. Fucking love you guys loving this shit. So let's get into it. I wanted to start off by just describing this doll, this supposedly haunted doll, which is a real doll. Down in Florida in a museum. I want to describe it for you as best I can. If you'd just like to check out a picture, you can go to timesuckpodcast.com. It's under the episode description. And I will say the podcast site works well on mobile and the computer. So you can pull up these pictures on just like your phone and stuff too and just check it out. Because I feel like you got to see this. But if you don't want to, if you just listen in the car or whatever, Robert is 112 years old and dressed in like an old-timey, kind of like a baby blue and white old sailor suit, like from the 20s, or I guess it'd be before that, like from the aughts of the 20th century. That's how some sailors dressed back then. His face, his creepy face, it's worn down from years of play to the point that it just kind of like vaguely looks human. It almost kind of reminds me of like Hannibal Lecter when he has the mask in Silence of the Lambs, like so he can't bite people. But he still has his eyes, but then he just has this weird mask with little like pinholes so he can breathe. He looks kind of like that, to be honest. And he currently resides in the Fort East Martello Museum in Key West, Florida. And the museum employees have traced Robert's origin back to the Steiff Toy Company. It's Steiff. It's a German toy company that it still exists to this day. And some Steiff historians have verified that Robert is a Steiff doll, but they don't think he was ever a doll. Well, they know he was never a doll created for, like, their historians. This company has this, I guess. He was never created for mass circulation. But they think he was probably part of, like, a window display, back again at the dawn of the 20th century. And they think he was part of a window display for jesters and clowns. Fucking clowns, man. You can't get away from them. And they think that explains kind of his impish, kind of mischievous grin. And they think he's probably part of some early... I already said that. And anyway... The Steiff, little side note, this plush toy company was founded in 1880 in Germany by a woman named Marguerite Steiff, a woman who was confined to a wheelchair from about as a child with polio, and a woman who, based on every photo I could find of her, young and old, looks fucking exactly like someone you'd cast in a horror movie as the maker of an evil doll. I also have a picture of her up along with the episode description at timesuckpodcast.com. If you want to check her out. I mean, it really does add to the creepiness. I just included that because if you see this lady, especially if she's a little older and she's dressed all in black with a scowl on her face and she's sitting in her wheelchair holding this doll with, like, no fucking joy. And she looks like exactly who you would see in some fucking horror movie as, like, the creepy old woman who makes creepy dolls. Like in the movie, she has some crazy backstory where, like, she felt polio had robbed her of her childhood. And, and there'd be like those flashback scenes of other kids just, nah, you can walk, like, circling around her, and she's fucking crying, and then cut to the future, and she's fucking putting some, like, devil spell on this doll, and I'll get you, and giving it to, the kid who now lives across the street, and she's an old woman, and the fucking demons start coming out of there and killing her family. Yeah, I can all see it. I can see it all. So, anyways, enough about Marguerite. Germany again. Man, fucking Krampus. The Germanic origins. We talked about that devil. Now we got this fucking... Maybe it's just old German people back in the 20s and stuff. Just the way they decided to take pictures just looked fucking terrifying. So much weird shit comes from out that part of the country. Or world, excuse me. Anyways, back to Robert. His description: olive-colored skin, with this light blonde, kind of Aryan hair. He has a little worn nub of a nose that looks like a couple pinholes, and beady black as coal eyes. Really gives him a sinister look, and like the eyes. And also he has whatever kind of like material he's made of. It looks almost like spongy in the photographs. But it has like really, really hard styrofoam. It kind of has that look to it. So, like, little divots can come out of it. Not even styrofoam. I'm trying to think of this what the term for it is. It's like this old material that I think some dolls I've seen actually made out of, and it's like spongy. It's like a sponge, a hard sponge looking thing. His face is with, like, very little, like, tiny, like, little spongy air holes. And maybe just the way that whatever material he's made out of kind of aged to give it look like that. But he has these pock marks all over his face, like little divots. So they look like scars. I mean, it really toughens up this little doll's image. He looks like he's been through some serious, sinister shit, and he lived. Again, if I was doing a fucking horror movie about this, they'd find, like, DNA in his little pock markers on his face, and they would be from, like, missing kids, who had clawed at his face as Robert strangled them in their sleep. And he's a sizable doll too. He could strangle a kid. He's not tiny. He's not like early G.I. Joe size or Barbie size. No, he's like he's 40 inches tall. So he's 3 feet 4 inches tall. He's a sizable doll. And so, you're probably thinking, like, okay, so Robert, where does the Robert come from? Good question, person I just made up in my head. Let's get into that. This doll's, we're gonna get there. This doll's original home is now known as the Artist House in Key West. It's like a bed and breakfast now. It was built in 1898 by Mr. and Mrs. Thomas Otto. Sounds German. The Ottos had enough money for a big colonial Queen Anne-style mansion with like these big, beautiful columns and a veranda and a turret. It's actually a really pretty house. And it's now you can stay there, actually. If you just look at it, it's $160 to $360 a night to stay at the artist's house, bed and breakfast in Key West, little boutique kind of hotel bed and breakfast. Also one of the most photographed former residences, of the area, along with the Hemingway house down there in Key West. And there's a bunch of articles about the house, about how it's haunted and part of like little walking tours and everything. And there's information that the Ottos were native Key Westers, and among the social elite. It took a couple years to build this house. It was very expensive. They were very well off financially, enough to have multiple servants. And it sounded like they did very well because the dad, the Mr. Thomas Otto, was a third-generation doctor. And so, this is back in the age when, like, doctors make good money now, but I feel like back then they made like serious fucking coin compared to everybody else. And if you're third generation, now you have accumulated doctor wealth. And they traveled a lot. They're active in the community, and again, just kind of like socialites. The mom was from the Bahamas, and they had 3 boys, and the youngest being the first to be born when living in this new mansion, now known as the artist's house. And that youngest boy is Robert Eugene. There's Robert Eugene Otto. And he was born October 25th, 1900. And then on his 4th birthday, October 25th, 1904, he was given a doll. And with the doll here, there is questions as to its origin. Some things, like I feel like lead me to believe that the doll was given to him just, by his family. And especially like when you know that it was this doll from Germany, this God damn it, I've already forgot the name of the fucking toy place. God damn, what was it called? Steiff. I wanted to call it a Klein doll for some reason. So we know that it was a Steiff doll. It was a Steiff stuffed animal. So I would imagine those cost a little bit of money. And I only kind of make that point because a lot of these kind of paranormal websites, what they say is the doll was given to little Robert by one of the servants in the house, because they had multiple servants. And I kind of question that because, if you're a servant, you don't have a lot of money. You're not going to go buy an expensive doll. But that's part of like the haunted history of this doll is they think that it has like these voodoo origins. Because legend has it that the Ottos, they were kind of cruel to their servants. And and also to the nurse, which was the term for kind of nanny in those days, and that's who supposedly gave Robert this prize doll. And the paranormal enthusiasts and kind of pseudo historians want to believe that a voodoo curse was placed on this doll as retribution for the cruel treatment on behalf of the Ottos. And another variation, though, that I think is a little bit more plausible is that the doll was actually given by the family, but that and there's kind of some other little stories along these lines that this nanny, this nurse, placed a voodoo curse upon the doll after Robert got it. Again, as retribution for the family. And that's a whole other can of worms where it's like, do you believe in voodoo? Do you not? I mean, there definitely are tales of, voodoo priests and priestesses, attempting to curse or thinking that they've cursed things. So, that's up to you to think like, well, can things be cursed or can't they? I choose to believe that they cannot, but at the same time, and I'm going to keep hitting this point over and over during the podcast, I say that they're not, but after reading all this stuff about Robert, I would want nothing to fucking do with this doll. Just absolutely nothing to do with it. So, obviously there is some part of me that has left the door open to the possibility of things being cursed, as much as I hate that. I hate that I believe that. But yeah, there's a little bit of fear there. So, anyway, what we do know for sure is that he was given this doll on his birthday in 1904. And I guess he loved it so much, this is so weird to me, that he decided going forward that the doll would actually take his name and that he would go by a shortened version of his middle name. So he became known going forward as Gene, and the doll became known as Robert. And these two were fucking inseparable. Like, they hung out together. He took him everywhere he went, little Gene did. And as Gene grew older, he kept doing that. He actually got his parents to create a room for the doll. The doll sat at the dinner table with Gene. Gene would sneak it bites of food when his parents were looking. Robert slept in the same bed as Gene. They were tucked in together at night. I mean, pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. And I love that he got his own fucking room. And they put it up in the attic, which is like, why would you do that? That's so creepy. To give your kid his doll his own like playroom up in the attic, and that'll come back to haunt them, I guess, literally, if you believe in hauntings. I don't know, man. Talk about indulgent parents, though, to allow all of this to happen. I can't imagine if my kids were like, Daddy, Robert needs his own room. I'd be like, the fucking doll? I don't even have my own office. How does the doll get its own fucking room? That shit isn't happening. And the doll's name is Kyler now? No, fuck that. I named you Kyler. The doll's named Shitface, okay? Now the doll's Shitface. That's how that works. Why were they being so indulgent to this fucking kid? God damn. Okay. But anyway, let's get back into Gene and the doll. They're being inseparable. They're playing up in their attic room. Indulgent, but, I guess not weird, other than the parents started to believe that they were hearing two voices from the attic. They were hearing their son, Gene. I can't believe that they would even call him Gene. How do they, again, why would you allow that? But they would hear Gene talking, and then they would hear Robert talking in a deeper voice. And again, and I say that like they're claiming this, but I never found a legitimate, like with these kind of things in paranormal, I'm less critical of the websites than I would be for like when I did the Lyndon B. Johnson thing. That I'm like, okay, I'm not going to go on Reddit. I'm not going to go on these. And I still try to stay away from just bullshitty chat rooms for this research. However, when you go into the realm of paranormal, if you're only going to go to like, super legitimate journalistic sites, you're not going to fucking get anything about your topic. All right, because there's just a ton of hearsay, and so a lot of the stuff about the parents is just alleged. And allegedly, they thought they would hear two people in the room. Way creepier than that. Apparently, when the doll was alone in its little attic playroom that had its own, complete with furniture and everything, they would still hear like giggling and playing and stuff. Then, so that is super creepy. Super creepy. And according to the website keywestparanormal.com, check this out. Quote, as incidents became more frequent with Robert... Oh, yeah. Sorry. Actually, before I say this, there was also... Gene was starting to get into the habit of blaming things on Robert. That was a common occurrence, I guess, in the household. And that is fairly well documented that, that apparently did happen. That, it was always like, well, I didn't do it. Robert did it. No, Robert did it. No, I didn't move the chair across the room. Robert did that. I didn't, spill the milk. Robert did that. I didn't, all this kind of whatever shit. I didn't throw a knife at you. I don't know if that happened. But it was all blaming. Okay, and here we go into this quote. As incidents became more frequent with Robert being blamed for things going wrong around the home, the servants consulted with the Ottos and explained that there seemed to be some sort of evil associated with Robert the haunted doll. The Ottos did not put much faith in the concept of haunted dolls, but eventually shared this possibility with relatives. One of these relatives, which happened to be Gene's great aunt, made a suggestion based on the fact that there could be such a thing as haunted dolls. She believed that if the doll was stored securely in the attic, then perhaps the issues experienced in the home would come to a stop. The Ottos felt like this was an ideal plan. Despite the begging and pleading of Gene, they placed the doll in a tight, secure box and left it upstairs in the attic. Now, it could be coincidence, but the night after Robert the haunted doll was stored away, the great aunt passed away in her sleep. As Gene had such an issue with his loss, his parents let him have his toy back, never considering the fact that if haunted dolls were in fact real, it could have been responsible for the great aunt's death. All right. So let's say this is true. Let's just go to let's take that leap of imagination and say that the doll maybe could have done it. What I don't understand in stories like this is why don't you just get completely rid of the fucking doll at this point? Like, take it out in the Florida swamps, chop it up, put it in a little hole in the ground, set its remains on fire, and then bury what's left. There's no fucking way I'm keeping a doll after that shit. After a doll that I think can talk, doll is giggling up there on its own. And now the aunt wants it put in a box, and then the aunt dies. No, what? And then I'm gonna let my kid keep playing with it? Who are these fucking assholes? But I have to realize that not everyone thinks the way I do about these things. Not everyone would just like get rid of it. And I say that because I know somebody personally, actually very well. My manager Maggie, has a creepy doll that her brother had bought for her in Japan and given her, and she has it in her house. And I one time I'm over there and I remarked on this doll. I'm like, geez, what's this dude? It's kind of creepy, because it's one of those little porcelain ones with the crazy eyes. And she's like, yeah, it actually is creepy. And then she proceeds to kind of tell me these stories where she says, like, when she gets up in the morning, a lot of times that she never touches the doll, and the doll is clearly facing in a different direction, she believes, than it was the night before. And that I could kind of like just toss off to imagination. I'm like, well, maybe, but it's not like, are you really taking notes of which way the doll was looking? Because it's not like she's writing the shit down. But she believes that it's looking in different directions. That didn't freak me out as much as she says sometimes there will just be a little pool of water in front of the doll. And it's not like it's by a source of water. There's no pipes around there. It's just out in the living room. It's not where people are setting water glasses. It's not near like her dog's water bowl. It's not pee when she cleans it up. It's not the dog peeing. That's fucking creepy. Like, and what does that mean? What was it like? Is it the spirit of somebody who drowned or something? But and I bring this up because after all that, she won't get rid of it. I would fucking burn that piece of shit. Again, why? But so maybe. So I bring that up again to point out that okay, there's some plausibility to them not getting rid of this thing, despite its obviously creepy behavior, if this stuff is true. Okay, so Jean continues to blame Robert after all this for things that parents assumed that Jean did, and other creepy stuff is happening. Like Jean's toys keep getting like mutilated. There are stories of them going up, like it's quiet up in the attic, and they'll go up there, and Jean is on one side of the little playroom and just kind of like whimpering, like kind of like huddled up in almost like a fetal position, holding his knees, and then the doll is across the room just looking at him, and he talks about how Robert's mad at him, like that kind of stuff, like they're having a fight. Fuck again, these are the biggest idiots for parents. I do buy this thing about the kid blaming the doll. That's not actually that uncommon. It's uncommon for it to go on for a long time, but it does remind me of a story with Monroe, my daughter, where one of the funniest stories I've ever had with Monroe that I've never told on stage. But one time I'm at my mom's house, and Kyler is sitting, just in the living room watching some cartoon on TV. And we're all gathered around, and Monroe is kind of back behind him and off to the side playing with some little toys. One of these toys is a little toy dog, and it's like hard plastic little toy dog. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, she's probably like 2 years old at this time, so maybe 2.5, maybe even 3, So Kyler would have been around 5, and she just all of a sudden walks across the room and fucking slams him in the head as hard as she can with this hard little dog, like it made an audible crack. And then Kyler starts bawling, like it looked like it fucking hurt. It wasn't just like little kid crying, like she hits him hard. So I start yelling at Monroe, and I'm like, what are you doing? No, go to the corner, sit in the corner. You do not hit your brother like that. Monroe vehemently denies hitting Kyler. She's like, I didn't do it. Puppy did it. I'm not bad. Puppy's bad. Starts talking her little kid talk. She's like, I know hit Puppy bad. Puppy bad. I know I didn't hit. Puppy hit him. It was one of the funniest things. She will not back down from that. We put her in timeout. The rest of us go back to consoling Kyler, and then we leave her there for a while until she's going to apologize. You don't get to come out until you sincerely apologize. That was a really bad thing you did. And then she doesn't. For like the next 10 minutes, we just hear her talking to herself. It was so hard not to just laugh so loud. But she's just talking to herself in the corner about, I know, bad girl, Puppy is naughty. I'm not naughty. Puppy's so naughty. Puppy did it. I didn't do it. So, typical kid thing, I think, to a point. But as you're about to see, Gene takes it way past typical. He ends up being buddy with Robert for basically his entire life. It gets really fucking weird. So eventually, little Gene, he grows up, leaves Robert at home for a time. Like a lot of kids who have a large inheritance coming to them and they know they'll never have to pay their own way through life, Gene goes to art school to study painting. How fun for Gene. He studies at the Academy of Fine Arts in Chicago, and then he attends New York Art Student League, which sounds like a place that only spoiled, wealthy, kind of overly indulged East Coast, kind of brats would go to. Like there's no one from like the Detroit inner city going to the New York Art Students League. I read about it a little bit, and it was actually it sounds so pretentious. It was formed in 1875 by a group of artists, almost all of whom were students at the National Academy of Design in New York City, and they felt that, quote, the Academy's instruction was too conservative and unsympathetic to their new ideas about art. And they opened up this new school, and again, none of these fucks are working night jobs so they can go to the league. It's a bunch of rich kids fucking around painting. Just a bunch of eccentric rich kid shit. And then a bunch of trust funders. And then, so after studying in New York for a while at the league, Gene decides to head to Paris. He heads to Paris for a while to paint and study. Man, fuck this guy, man. More I was reading about Gene, the less I liked him. It would be one thing if he became an artist of renown, of note. But no, despite spending a lot of time and a lot of his parents' money in Chicago and New York and Paris, never figured out how to make a living as an artist or get another fucking job, because he never had to. If you want to find some Otto's work, don't go looking in a gallery or museum, because that shit ain't there, all right? The only thing you can find, after I did a lot of research, I found one picture of him in one of his paintings, and I found it on a website called robertthedoll.org. So, if you're a successful artist, you're not going to be mostly known for having a doll. That's not how that works. If he was even like average, you would have paintings in galleries just because of the fucking doll association. If you're curious about this picture, by the way, I do have it up at timesuckpodcast.com on the episode description. And again, he didn't need to be successful. He's got mommy and daddy's money. Well, eventually Gene does leave Paris. He leaves after a while after meeting Annette Parker of Boston while over there, a gifted pianist who allegedly once played for the King of England. The two of them marry in Paris in 1930. And after Annette finishes her piano studies over there, so obviously she lived a life of fucking luxury as well, the two of them head to New York, where Annette fucks around with the piano and Gene dicks around painting for a couple more years. Man, quite the life these two had. But then Gene's mom becomes ill, and he and Anne head back to Key West to take care of her. And apparently Anne does not like anything about Key West. One of the things she likes the least is there's no kind of bustling music scene that she could be a part of like there was in New York. And the thing she likes definitely the least is fucking Robert. Yep, Robert's back. Oh, sweet little Robert. Gene's living in his childhood home again and back to his old childhood tricks. And apparently him and Robert, this guy's got to be in his 30s by now. Him and Robert are inseparable. Think about how creepy that is. Think of it for Annette. Like, you marry this guy. Not that she was, I don't know who she was, but maybe she wasn't the sharpest fucking, knife in the drawer. But she couldn't have expected, I would think, that her husband would be, like, into a doll more than he was into her. Especially, like, if she meets him without the doll and then they go home and all of a sudden he's like, oh, Robert, I can't wait to be back and, playing with you again. And that actually does kind of lend some kind of credence to there's something weird with this doll. Like, what kind of power it had on him. What the fuck is he? Maybe he's just mentally ill, but why wasn't he so crazy in New York and Paris? Why is it when he got back around the doll that the doll like pulled him back in again? Because apparently during their marriage, the doll goes on vacations with them. Robert does all his painting up in the attic. I'm sorry, Gene. Robert. Gene does his painting up in the attic, with Robert, talking to Robert. And then there's weird stories from like neighborhood kids at this time where they would see the doll moving around up there and I don't know, all kinds of creepy shit. Robert, okay, got to get back into this. Okay, and so as soon as Annette hates the doll so much that finally when Robert dies in 1974, she immediately gets rid of the home. She sells the artist's house, and he'd inherited it, after his sick mom passed away, and then his dad passed away. They inherited the house. As soon as Gene dies, the house is gone. And according to the website KeyWestParanormal.com, which I got to say looks like a fucking crackpot website, this is a story too good not to share, and it does show up in numerous other kind of horror movie-related sites and stuff. And I'll explain later why there's a horror movie association here. The new owners, okay, quote, the new owners moved in very excited about the beautiful home that they'd acquired. They discovered the homemade doll and decided to put it back in the attic. Yeah, because why wouldn't you do that? You move in some place, you're like, yeah, let me put a fucking creepy doll in my attic. Let's do that. That's first order of business. What, you just find a creepy doll over there in our new home that we're still getting used to all the sounds? Oh, yeah. God, what should we do with it? Should we throw it away? No, let's not throw it away. I know. Let's put it in the attic so we always know it's there but can't see it. That's the fucking best plan. Okay, so unfortunately, this decision would haunt them regularly. Yeah, no shit. Back into the article now. They claim that unusual noises could be heard in and around the home, including the same ominous laughter that had been heard when the Otto family lived in the home. Soon the evil doll started to make an appearance at random locations throughout the home. No one moved the doll, but it seemed that it could move from one location to another on its own. Naturally, the home terrified the new owners, and immediately they left. It seemed that the last straw was when the obviously possessed and evil doll was found standing at their bed with an evil gaze upon them while yielding a knife. Yeah, I would say that would be the last straw. I would say even if you're the kind of dumb shit that it's like, yes, I have a doll in my house that fucking moves around and shows up on its own in different places that I choose to let live in the attic. Yeah, okay. In hindsight, that was a bad decision. However, I pulled my head out of my ass when I woke up one morning and the little fucker was holding a knife and looking at me ominously. Because I might not be a genius, but I know that when a creepy, evil, animated doll is holding a knife and staring at me, that, shit's not going to get better. This could end badly. This could end in tragedy. Fucking unbelievable. So another website doesn't list the knife story, but it does say that Myrtle Reuter purchased the Hardest house after Otto's death in 1974. So, and this seems like more legit. So that part of the story seems to be, I would guess, true. And this one also says that she became Robert's new caretaker. So apparently, Annette did leave the doll, was like, fuck that doll. This doll's staying in the house. I'm not even going to touch it. Which, if it was doing weird stuff or her husband was just like preposterously obsessed with it, I don't blame her. And visitors swore that they heard footsteps in the attic and giggling going on. Some claim Robert's expression changed, like visitors to this place, and they heard, again, the footsteps. And also, there's these rumors that if anyone bad-mouthed Otto in the doll's presence, said anything bad about the previous owner, the doll's expression would change. Like, it would get like a fucking grim expression. Like, don't you talk shit about, about Gene. And then after 20 years of listening to his antics, this woman, Reuter, did get rid of the doll. She kept the house, but she donated little Robert to the museum in Key West that we mentioned earlier in 1994. So what has Robert been up to at this museum? There's a lot of stories about that. A lot of YouTube videos where you can hear firsthand tales from people who work at this museum. This is the museum, Fort East Martello Museum in Key West. And, there's just like things of like it moving, it messing up technology. Like people try to take pictures of the doll and all of a sudden their camera stops working. This one paranormal guy said he tried to like move the doll's hat off of its head, its little sailor hat, to get a better picture. And immediately his camera stopped working. The second he put his hat back on, the camera worked again. So little Robert, he's fucking having a bad hair day, I guess, and he didn't want his picture taken. Looking all, he wanted to look, more proper, like a proper sailor that he is. Fucking just got in from the high seas. And there's like, stories that like he has this little dog on his lap in his display case, this little stuffed animal, in a lot of the pictures. And there's this rumor that he was never given that it was part of a different display. And one night Robert just went out and took it. Lots of things about him here, him giggling. There's this one interview of this docent to this volunteer who works there, and she just talked about how she would not touch him, how he just creeped her the fuck out. And Robert, Robert, has become famous for all these kind of tales, all these legends that have sprung up around him. And he being in the museum kind of helps things going. And then also, a lot of people speculate that he is the basis for Chucky in the Child's Play horror movies. Now, I can't find the actual writer and director, Tom Holland, a guy I actually interviewed when I hosted a show called The Playboy Morning Show a couple years ago. Interviewed him about some other horror movie and talked about Child's Play when he came in, but I didn't know about Robert then, so I didn't ask him anything. But I can't find an interview where he says, yes, I based Chucky on Robert. But there's a tremendous amount of speculation that, that he is the inspiration. This talking doll, this doll that, possesses some kind of soul, this doll that is so buddy-buddy with the kid but doing, a bunch of evil shit. There's definitely some parallels there with Chucky. And basically, a lot of these websites point to the origin being kind of the knife, some variation of the knife story. Some stories claim that the people who moved in after Otto died, that all of a sudden the little doll came at the daughter with a knife. Some people claim that the little doll was at the foot of the bed with a knife. Who knows? But and again, I think this stuff's silly, but I'm also getting like the chills fucking talking about this. And that movie was a movie. Maybe I'm just thinking about that movie too. That movie scared the shit out of me when I was a kid. Child's Play was a good horror movie. It is the only good horror movie I will say that's been based on Robert that's been made so far. There were 2 other movies in the last 2 years, one in 2015 and one in 2016, that were made about Robert the doll, and they look so fucking terrible, so terrible. One is Robert the Doll, a movie titled Robert the Doll. It came out in 2015. I think it might even actually just Robert. I think I saw it listed as both. It's not a popular movie. And the other one is The Curse of Robert that came out in 2016. Comments have actually been disabled for the Curse of Robert trailer, which is never a good sign. No one disables comments on a video where people are complimentary. The Curse of Robert has been reviewed by no critics or people at all on Rotten Tomatoes since it came out last month. You can watch it on Amazon or iTunes. On Amazon, it's been reviewed 7 times and has a 2 out of 5 star rating. The most positive review says, quote, "I want it now," and that was a review left before the movie came out. So somebody was just excited to see something with the doll. All the reviews that came out after the movie was released are preposterously negative. Like really, really bad. My favorite negative review says, Robert's curse is having to watch this film. That's pretty clever. It's clever. The movie Robert, or Robert the Doll, that's not even listed on Rotten Tomatoes. It has a 3.3 out of 10 star rating on IMDb, InternetMovieDatabase.com. It has a 2.5 out of 5 star Amazon rating, where out of 65 reviewers, 45% gave it 1 star. I'm guessing the other 55% left their review before the movie came out. My favorite 1 star review says, "Worst piece of crap ever made." That's the subject. And he gets into it. This Jody Kahn, left on February 1st, 2016, says, "This is the worst movie ever. My son rented it, and I just happened to sit down and watch it with him. He was bored to death. Does not even deserve 1 star. Complete waste of time and money. Complete piece of crap. My dog could make a better movie. Shame on you, Amazon, for including this piece of shit in your movie library and charging for this. What a complete ripoff! Exclamation point. This movie is not even worth viewing for free." So you might want to skip those. So what do you think? That's kind of all that's all the legend there laid out for you about Robert. And there's just a lot of room in this one for whatever you choose to believe. I mean, do you believe, like my manager Maggie, that dolls can move? Do you believe that Robert is cursed? Do you believe in curses? Does the spirit of Jean now live within Robert? Or maybe it's something else entirely. Maybe it's voodoo related. Maybe it's demonic. Do you believe in voodoo or demons? If he is real, I wonder, why didn't he just take off and leave his display? Why didn't he go on some kind of blatant killing rampage if he truly is evil? I always think about that with, monsters, these rumors. Why are they fucking hiding all the time? If you're some paranormal entity and can't be touched, especially, in some kind of ghost demonic way, why not just fucking tear shit up? Go on a rampage. But, maybe I don't know all the rules. Maybe they could be killed. Maybe it's self-preservation. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me. And, again, I say I don't believe it. I say I don't buy it. I say all this stuff is people's imagination and a bunch of fucking nonsense. But at the same time, you could not pay me to sleep in the same room with this little piece of shit. I would be fucking terrified. So is my fear irrational? Or is there some, instinctual basis for some kind of paranormal? I don't know. What I do know is that it's time for some top 5 takeaways.
Timesuck. Top 5 takeaways.
Number 1, never, no matter how much money you make, ever dedicate a room to one of your kids' dolls, especially not in the fucking attic. And if you start hearing the doll talk and believe the doll is wrecking some shit in your home, like Gene's parents supposedly did, burn the little bastard. Number 2, good horror movies are apparently incredibly difficult to make, even if you start with a legend that basically writes the story out for itself, as demonstrated by Robert the Doll and The Curse of Robert. Number 3, haunted or not, don't bring your doll on vacations with you and your wife like Gene Fuckface Trust Fund Otto did. God, what a douche. Maybe he deserved to be honored. Number 4, if you're going to spend your parents' money studying painting in Chicago, New York, Paris, and then New York again, like Gene Otto did, at least have the decency and the respect to get good at it. Number 5, Maggie, if you're listening to this, get rid of that goddamn doll before it goes nuts and ends up inspiring more terrible movies to be made.
Timesuck. Top 5 takeaways.
So that was it, you guys. That was the bonus episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope you have a happy New Year's. And I want to thank everybody again for making me feel like the start of this podcast was successful. I appreciate the big boost in listenership over the last few weeks, especially. It's really going up, and I have you to thank for that. You know, word of mouth is the best advertising. You know, keep listening, keep telling your friends. I hope I touch on subjects that inspire you to talk about them and that you're having fun with. I really want to make this project so much bigger and better in 2017. So keep those reviews coming. You know, keep telling your friends. You know, keep letting me know what you like, what you don't like, and I'll keep looking into all the shit that you don't have time to research yourself. And if you do take my advice that I mentioned earlier, and you do burn some doll that you feel is haunted, I want you to know that just like Chucky in Child's Play, it might put up a fight. So prepare yourself.
I said talk to me, damn it, or else I'm gonna throw you in the fire!
You stupid bitch, you filthy slut! Did you fuck with me?
See you next year, everybody.